Okay, I wanted to do one of those videos where it's kind of like, well, back in my day, I didn't have this situation. I'm that old. I can do one of those back in my day situations. Anyways, so like when I was going into high school, teachers didn't have to worry about being harassed or anything like that online because there wasn't really any social media to be worried about. I mean, nowadays there's social media, all over the place, and yeah, I mean, teachers, I'm sure, are being harassed for this, that, or the other thing. I mean, you see stuff like this online, and hopefully the teachers can just kind of shrug it off. It's like, it comes with a job. But on top of that, COVID came along, and then the teachers not only had to, kind of put up with some of the harassment with the social media of nowadays, like Facebook and whatnot, but now they had to completely change their lesson plan from in-person learning to at home learning. And before all of this, nobody really knew what at-home learning was. It was just kind of it was unheard of. The biggest thing that I had growing up was, let's say you missed a day of school, you could have a friend come over with the books and homework of that day, and then you could have kind of like in-person learning at home to kind of get caught up. I mean, that's the best way that I could relate to it. But this whole COVID thing, when that came around, the teachers had to do, not only learn the software and kind of learn how how different programs work online, how the internet works, and all this other stuff that goes along with it. They had to not only learn that on their end, but they had to learn enough in order to troubleshoot it on the student's computer remotely. And I've had to deal with kind of walking people through steps on the phone how to fix things, and that can be hard. That's not an easy thing to do. So I kind of have to give it to teachers there. They had to do all this quick learning and adapting and adjusting, and they didn't get any extra pay. It's like, well, this is just one of those things, and you just have to put up with it, and we're not going to give you any extra pay, and you have to learn all this extra stuff, and potentially be harassed online with no extra pay. I literally know a teacher who, because of her situation, is on food stamps. I mean, she's a full time teacher. She just started out, so she's not making a whole lot of money. Oh well, compared to like teachers that have been there for a while, and it's a smaller school. So I mean, it depends on where you're at and what's going on. Some teachers might not be eligible for food stamps. Some might be. I mean, the bottom line is teachers don't get paid a whole lot, and they certainly don't get paid enough to put up with troubleshooting online, and this whole in-person learning thing. On top of that, being harassed by students online, and I mean, on top of that, when the teachers came back to work, they had to become like nurses and doctors and try to identify what students might have symptoms. I mean, there was thermometers that everybody was, getting checked out. So getting checked out by. So the teachers had to learn, how to do the thermometers, how to look for different, fevers, chill, kind of not really there when you're sick. You're not really 100% there, kind of thing. And they had to kind of look for that. They had to make sure all the students were wearing masks and they were, taking all the proper precautions. And I don't mean to have this be a political issue or any of that other crap. I'm just kind of saying that, teachers, they had to, and this might apply to all jobs everywhere. I'm just kind of rooting for teachers in this little rant that I have going on. But they had to not only become IT professionals, they had to kind of become epidemiologists. I'm saying that word wrong, like nurses and doctors that look for that. And so it's like, did they get any extra pay after that? And some of them might, some of them might not have. I mean, you're working in a like COVID-rich environment, and this was before the vaccines and all the other things that there are nowadays to kind of deal with COVID. They didn't really have anything. Oh, boss fight. Anyways, so it's like they have all this extra stuff that they have to learn, that they have to teach for basically no extra money. They're, well, at least the one teacher I know is still on food stamps, and she had to do all this extra stuff, get all this extra training and whatnot for no return kind of thing. So, that's kind of one of my rants. And then, this has been going on for a while, but this is June 2nd, 2022. For some reason, that's hard for me to say. So, you might be listening to this years and years from now, and this might be solved, and it might not be an issue. So, if it is, then, cool. Maybe it was just a few incidences here and there. Anyways, I'm kind of talking about the mass shooting that's been going on. It's like, do teachers really need one more thing? On top of that, they shouldn't have to worry about this. in my opinion, anyway. When I was in high school, no teacher ever had to worry about going to work and potentially not coming home. If you're a police officer, there's always that chance that you go to work and you might not come back home because, something awful happened. And, if you're in the Army, the same thing applies. You hope for the best, especially if you're like on the front lines, or I don't know much about Army stuff. So, I apologize if I had the wrong terminology, which I'm sure I do. Where did my guy go? Dude, get back here. Stop it. All right, thank you. So, and then on top of that, they're saying that, some of the politicians are saying, well, teachers nowadays, they should get, a gun, and they should learn threat assessment, and kind of, it's like arm the teachers, and then the teachers could take care of the problem. And the lady that I'm friends with, she's like, you've got to be kidding me. I have never shot a gun before in my life. I doubt I could shoot a student. And, it's like, when I was going to high school, this wasn't a thing. This is nuts. And I'm not going to give out names or anything like that, but she's just like, this is ridiculous. I don't think I could ever shoot one of my students. But, it's a practical, well, I'm not going to say practical. I misspoke. The thought of that, it's like, okay, well, now I have to buy a gun. So is that gun going to be supplied, is it going to be my personal gun? Is it going to be supplied by the high school? Is the high school going to teach me how to shoot this gun? Are they going to provide the threat assessment classes? And, they didn't really have classes for this COVID thing. It was more like, here's the guidelines that we have now, and that's going to change a couple months from now because the CDC is still learning about this virus and all this other stuff. But it's like, really? This? Really? There has to be one more thing? That kind of thing? And on top of that, guns? If somebody's going to rob you, if somebody's going to come running up behind you, grab your purse or phone or wallet or, whatever, and go running off with it. And by the time you realize what's going on, it's like, oh, I was just robbed. Maybe I should do something about it. And by that time, the person's gone. Like if somebody wants to come into my house, they're probably going to do it when I don't have my gun handy, when my gun is locked up. It's a lot of good that gun's going to do then. And then on top of that, let's say, oh, he's going to get that. Yeah. Let's say that, a gunman or a gunwoman or, whatever preference you want to say, actually does come into the classroom with a gun. The teacher quickly has to realize this, get to where her gun is, unlock it, and make sure it's going to fire. And by that time, she's probably dead. I don't know. I don't want this to be political. I don't want this to be about guns. It's like the amount of things that teachers had to put up with so far in the last couple of years has been just phenomenal without a pay raise. And then on top of that, throw in this political stuff, it's like, oh, just, you need to pay teachers more in the first place to make sure they're not on food stamps. I mean, at least pay them a living wage. On top of that, pay them, what's it called? What's it called when somebody is like on their job and there's been, man, I don't know. But give them like hazard pay. That's what it is. Yeah, hazard pay. Because I mean, they've definitely been going through a ton of hazards and a ton of different things that they had to put up with. That when I was going to high school back in my day, we didn't even have to. It wasn't a thing. I mean, it was never talked about. So it just, and then, I mean, what are you going to do if a teacher just says, no, I won't carry again? It's just, I hate it when, the solution is give more stuff to the poor person to do because it's going to fix all of our problems to dump more responsibilities on those who don't make as much money to do more at home or more at their job. And I mean, teachers really don't get paid all that much. And especially if you're not in a union, especially if you just started out and because of your situation, you're working full time and still on food stamps, you're required to now do all this other stuff. I'm looking for this book up here. It's just like, this is crazy. Anyways, that's just me ranting. I mean, nothing will come of this. It's just one of those things where it's like, he's just babbling and, reciting talking points on the news or, whatever. But I really think teachers are being underpaid for what they have to go through. And I think a lot of people probably agree with that. And meanwhile, we're giving them more work to do, more things to be worried about, more ways that they can be harassed, more ways that, whoops, I just kind of fell through the floor there. And, there's no hazard pay, there's no extra money, there's no incentive, and there's the fear of dying. I mean, I'm not going to die working a minimum wage job. That's just dumb. And a lot of teachers, they don't have, what in the world is that? They don't have a choice. It's like, I went to school, I have to do this. This is my thing. And I want to teach, and I want to do this. But in order to do that, I now have to become an IT professional. I now have to, put up with being harassed online. I now have to be a nurse. I now have to be a police officer, basically. So it's like you have all this other stuff. You have all this extra work, and you're not getting paid any more for it. And that can be really disheartening. And, it's like, I don't really want to go into examples, but let's say a student's really giving her a hard time, or him a hard time, giving the teacher a hard time. I got to use generic words here. And, the teacher doesn't know if I continue to give this person the grades that they deserve, are they going to someday come back and hurt me? That's not worth the wage that they are being paid in order to put up with stuff like that. That's crazy. Once again, it's just me ranting. Nothing will come of this. So, yeah, one of those things. I feel bad for my friend, but it's like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I don't know, how to make the situation better for her. And so I just use all these, so it sounds like this, so it sounds like that, to make it sound like they're being heard, kind of like what therapists do. And now, with some of these shootings, you're going to have students that are worried about, these mass shootings, and rightfully so. And, it's like, you have a lot of students that are just scared of guns, that are scared to go to school, that are worried about something like this happening. And, that's not fair for the student. That's not fair for the teacher. the students aren't being paid anything to go to school. I mean, you have to get a high school diploma in order to do anything anymore in this world. And okay, what over here am I trying to get? Anyways, that's just me babbling. So, if you're a school district person and you're hearing this, please consider giving your teachers a raise for all the crap that they had to put up with and that they are still putting up with. And, it just... Anyways, rant over. More of the rant is, there's a lot more going on now for pretty much the same amount of pay, given that, the dollar's worth more back in the day than it was now. So, there's been fluctuation, and basically they're being paid the same when it comes down to it. But they're being paid the same to do all these other jobs as well. That's kind of what I've been getting at. Anyways, yeah. Thanks for listening. Just one of my rants and raves and other things that I'm just trying to process. And it's like, why even become a teacher? I understand that it's some people's passion to do that, but in order to do that, at least give the teachers, I'm repeating myself. Anyways, I'll call it quits right here. Thanks for listening. Bye.